Hi, I'm Jared with M-Vac Systems. In this video, we're going to talk about how to actually take samples with the M-Vac, and most importantly, how to maximize the M-Vac system. You'll also notice that, I'm not wearing protective equipment such as gloves and a mask and things like that. That's done by design. We're not the experts in protective equipment, we're the experts in M-Vac sampling. So we've already set up the M-Vac system and with all its components, and if you've missed that, go to our introductory video and see that part. So now we're ready to power up. The first thing you want to do is turn the power on. Of course, this is after you've plugged the system in. The second thing you want to do is pressurize the solution with this knob here. Now you'll notice this light here. This light stays red as long as the solution pressure is low. And if you can see the bag of the solution bag is actually being compressed by the blivet that's behind it. And it's being pressed against this door, which is why you need to make sure the door is always closed properly. And that light will go out when it's ready to sample. Now it's pressurized. Again, the solution flow should be at a constant 15 psi, and now we're ready to take sample. So the last thing you want to do is turn the vacuum on. So when taking an M-Vac sample, the most important part of the M-Vac, and the part that actually comes in contact with the evidence, is the sampling head, as shown here. And you can see that there's a couple of different components to it. The first is the solution on-off button. Off is back, on is forward. The other part is the skirt, which you'll see there's some little nubs on the top of the skirt, or on the bottom of the skirt, as you will. That is designed to prevent the M-Vac from actually suctioning down onto whatever substrate it's on. And the third is to realize that the solution is sprayed in the middle and then it vacuums along the outside. And that's actually a key component to the M-Vac system because that enables the solution and the vacuum flow to be occurring at the same time. So the combination of the vacuum and the solution is what gets down into those cracks and crevices and then enables the DNA material to be released from whatever substrate it's in and be collected into the collection bottle. So when taking an M-Vac sample, the key to maximizing the sample is to find what we call finding flat. And you'll notice that the surface of the M-Vac sampling head is actually flat, but it's designed so that it'll stay perfectly on a curvature as much as the size of an orange. But when you're on a flat surface, the best thing to do, and this is we always do this when we're training people how to use this system, is to find flat. So if you put it onto a flat surface, you'll notice that if you rock it back and forth, you'll feel exactly where all 360 degrees of the sampling head is in contact with the surface. So you can rock it back and you can feel that that's not quite out there, and rock it forward. That's not in full contact, but then if you rock it back and forth right there, that's perfectly flat, and that's the optimal place for sampling with the M-Vac. Okay, so let's turn the system on and actually take a sample. So again, when you find it flat, you get it onto the surface that you want to extract the DNA material from, and then you push the solution button forward, and that will cause the solution to start flowing. And obviously you can hear that. So we now have a spray coming down and it's vacuuming at the same time. And then you just do an up and down motion. So toward you and then over and then away. And then over and then back. It's important to note that the solution spray actually comes out in a fan. And so you don't ever want to go left and right. You always want to go up and down. And that maximizes the fan, and it covers the most surface area. It's also important to note that the solution spray, as it sprays out, is about 2.5 centimeters wide, but the sampling head itself is about 3.5 centimeters wide. So you need to overlap a little bit. So when you're sampling, you sample down, and then when you move it over to the side, you don't quite move it all the way over, so it overlaps a little bit. And then as you're going on the upstroke, it overlaps. Okay, we've taped this brown paper down to fully illustrate exactly where the sampling head sprays. So I'll show you this really quick. Okay, so here you can see that the primary spray areas are right there in the middle. It does show a little bit of the extent of the sampling head, but when you sample the next spray over, you want to overlap just slightly, so that the spray actually overlaps with the other spray. You'll also notice that, especially here at the top, that the only part that's really being sampled is where the spray is hitting. And so up there at the top, it's not really hitting that, so you need to make sure and compensate. So in sampling fabrics, it's much easier to pull the sampling head towards you rather than pushing it. Also, because they're more porous, we usually go over it at least twice with the solution on, and then multiple times with the solution off to make sure that we extract as much of that solution out of that material as possible. So you turn the system on, put the sampling head down on top of the evidence, turn the solution on, and then pull it toward you. Turn it off, go back over it a couple of times, and then go over the same spot again with the solution on. And then go back over it a couple times. And we've found that that yields the best recoveries from fabrics. So while you're sampling, there's a couple of things to note about the actual collection bottle shown here. First thing is, you never want to fill the sampling bottle more than about 200 milliliters. If it gets much higher than that, then it starts splashing up against the filter in there, and that's about the max that this bottle can handle. The second thing is, especially when you're sampling a relatively small surface area, you still want to make sure that plenty of solution has gone through there. We recommend at least about 50 milliliters. Very important to remember is, even if you're only sampling a small area, you have to make sure that the sampling head covers and overlaps over that small area. So even if I only had a small spot on the surface of this hat, I still need to turn the solution on and then make sure and go past the spot and back and forth at least a little bit in order to cover that spot. Once again, ensuring that you go over that spot at least enough times to gather 50 mils worth of solution.